Hello, AOC Community Media member. I'm Matt Roberts with AOC Community Media, and today we're going to show you how to use our new reservation system, Rueshare, which we think will be cool for everybody. So AOCinc.org, of course, is our website, so all things AOC live there. But you should have received an email from us, especially if you're an active member or a new member, with a member invite. That will include a username, and it will include a password, and it will include a link to where you can log on to Rueshare, which again is our new reservation system. And of course, you can always get to it on AOCinc.org by going to the Make Media tab and then clicking on Rueshare there. And that gets you to this login page. So that's the first thing we're going to do is log in, choose my username, and put in my password, which I've already changed, of course, so that it's not the one that was in that email. However, a quick note, it will be easier probably if you copy that temporary email and paste that into the password field, because obviously it's got a lot of weird characters in it. So yeah, copy and paste that password the first time you log in. So what we're going to talk about here is we're going to talk about your login, your profile. We're going to talk about productions, which is like a project, and then we're going to talk about reservations. You essentially reserve any gear or assets you're using for use on a production, which you will be the producer of. So if I'm looking over this little home page here, I can see all my navigation tabs up at the top. Here I can access my profile information. So when I want to go change my password, for instance, click on that profile, and then you can of course update your contact info and save that, and you also have an option to change your password, and I would recommend you do that right away and do it. You can paste that old password, the current password, and then change your password to something that'll be pretty easy for you to remember. If I want to get back to the home page, I'm going to click on the little AOC logo at the top left here, and that brings me back to that home page. So on that home page, you'll see our upcoming classes are going to be scrolling up at the top here. We have some director notes, which will be updated from time to time. And then you have a list of your productions down here that you have already created if you're already working on some productions. Down here is crew calls, which we may talk about in a future installment of these tutorials. And then on the left, you have some quick links for like your center and your center's agenda, what's going on. And then for your personal agenda as far as AOC is concerned. So that's the home page, but let's take a look at if you're a member and you're trying to reserve some gear. So like I was saying before, all gear is reserved against a production or under a production or a project. They're called productions here. So first thing you'll need to know how to do probably is create a production. Some of you are going to have existing productions that you're working on if you're already working on a television series or something like that. But a lot of you might need to create a production, so we're going to do that. And a production, again, is just what project are you working on? Are you working on a TV show, a radio show, a podcast, or all of the above, or something else? So let's create this production, and we're going to call it a TV radio show, and it'll be a show on TV and radio. And really the only information you have to give us is you have to give us a name. Description is actually optional, but of course any description can sometimes help us to help you. Production type, you have to choose that, and then it'll automatically set you as the producer. We're using login of AOC member here. So we're going to do multiple distribution channels, and the rest of this you don't even, like I said, have to fill out. But if you want to give us that information or keep track of that information here, sometimes it can help us to help you if you're trying to meet goals like expected end dates and things like that. We can help you to decide, what kind of equipment to use and what the best strategy might be. So I'm going to hit create here. and that should create my production. So it is created, and I'm going to hit save here just to make sure. And it should be, yeah, we should see that green bar up at the top there. So right now I'm still in the editing portion of this production, but you can go right away to adding reservations, and we'll walk through that system in just a second. But I did want to show you this cool new feature, which is base assets. So base assets, if you're going to work on a production and you know you're going to need like a certain set of gear, like let's pretend for this show I will need let's say a blue kit. So a blue kit I'm going to find under packages, and you can see we've got our equipment divvied up into these different tabs or classifications. So equipment's going to be most of your portable gear, and especially like loose portable gear like lavalier mics and individual lamps from light kits and things like that. Facilities is going to be our rooms and things like that, the gear in the rooms. So that's where our facilities will be, and then also of course live time on our distribution channels, TV1 and Cypress Street Radio. And then packages will be where if you checked out kits before, like backpack kits or blue kits or orange kits or anything like that, that's where you'll find those. So if you can't find the gear you're looking for in the tab you're in, remember to hop around on tabs, and that's, you know, whether you're reserving or setting up the space assets field. So I'm going to set up my base assets. I know I'm going to use blue kits, so I will add that. So I'll just check on blue kits, then click OK there, and that adds that to my base assets, and I'll keep adding some assets. Now I'm going to go over to equipment, and I'll use this search feature because you can see we have a lot of entries in this, so to scroll through all of them might be kind of a pain. So I'm going to search for tripod because I want one of those too. So I can see the VeriZoom tripods for orange kits and blue kits. I'll add one of those and click OK. And that adds that to my reservation. And then I also know I'm going to be using the lab computer, a post computer. So let's add that. And so I'm going to look in facilities here. I've got 8 entries in facilities. So I'm seeing all of them here. And I don't see a lab computer there. So let's go see if it's in equipment. And I'll look for, let's just try typing in computer. So we do have the iMacs there, so I'll just add one of those and click OK, and there we go. So that is some base assets for this production, and what's that's going to do, that hasn't actually reserved anything, but when I go to reserve, I can go to kind of a short list of the things I might want to check out instead of having to scroll through or search through a lot of gear. So let's look at creating a reservation. And again, reservations are always going to be kept under a production or be classified under a production. So if you've just created a production like we did, then you can go right to that reservations tab and add a reservation. But if you already have an existing production, you don't have to create one every time you want to reserve something. Just the best way to reserve would be to select that production. So like, let's look at the one I just created, which is now under my list there. And you can see when I clicked on it, it went right back to the reservations tab because that's where I was. But if it had gone to this window, I would just need to click on reservations here and then add a reservation. So I'm going to add a reservation. You'll want to start with the date and the time because the system is actually going to let you know whether or not the gear you want is available. So for instance, I'm going to set, let's set it sure right now, or we'll set it at 1 p.m. today, and then we'll set it to, like, let's say 5 p.m. today. So from 1 to 5 p.m. And then I have all those same tabs, so equipment, facility, packages, that's all there, and I can choose straight from there. Or I can go to my base configurations and then the items will be there. So I can select the ones I want for that reservation and hit that request button. You'll see 2 reservations were successfully added, and that means that you've got 2 items that you've requested a reservation for. click OK. And it is now I can see under reservations for this production that we're looking at, the TV radio show. I can see I have 2 reservations on file there. So that is how you make a reservation. Once that's approved, you'll get an email at that same email address saying that that reservation has been approved, and then you can use the gear. Let's just take a quick look now. I'm going to go to Add Reservations. And if we're looking at add reservations, then once you enter that date and time, and that's why it's a good idea to start with date and time, you may notice that the gear is not in the list. And what that usually means is that the gear won't be available for the time you're trying to request. So at that point, what I would do is launch Reservation Calendar here. And that'll open a new window, and in that window you can kind of see what gear is taken and when. And so that is very handy. So for instance, let's say that the blue kits weren't available, or if I were trying to reserve a blue kit for the same time, I could see that the blue kit was taken from here to here and know that I would need to reserve it for another time. So that is this cool reservation system. I hope that that helps you to use this reservation system, and I hope that it makes things a little easier, a little better for you. All right, thanks everybody for playing. We'll talk to you soon.